This is the Cliff Yates Show. Personal growth, motivation, inspiration, and philosophies for a great life.
Hey everybody, this is the Cliff Yates Show. You are in the right place, and I guess I'm just lucky I have another fantastic guest with me today. I'm so thankful, and we haven't spent a lot of time, well, we've spent no time personally, but I have to already consider him a friend of mine, and he is my brother-in-law, and when I say that, I mean he's a brother-in-law in that he is part of the law enforcement community, and like me, he did a full career in law enforcement. Like me, he retired at the rank of sergeant, and better than me, but like me, we have some books that we've written, and he has a fantastic podcast called Cops and Writers. We're going to talk about it, and an amazing book series that he's into book number 4 with that I'm just loving. I'll bring him right on, Mr. Patrick O'Donnell. Thanks for being here, brother.
Cliff, I gotta say, it's an honor to be on your show. I'm loving what you're doing. I especially liked your episodes with your mom. I thought that was awesome. And your wife. I think you've had her on a couple of times. She's fabulous. I think you guys make a great, podcasting couple, to tell you the truth. I mean, maybe something for future reference. But yeah, thank you very much. You've had some great guests, and it's an honor to be on the show.
Yeah, and your your podcast, which is Cops and Writers, which I think, I know it's very popular because, and you do this often. On the Facebook group, you welcome new members. It's never 2 or 3; it's like 20 people. How big is this community now?
Yeah, it's over 6,000.
What?
And oh yeah, it started. It's funny because I didn't think it would amount to anything, but if you don't put your line in the water, you're never going to catch a big fish, right? You got to try.
Right.
And what happened was I wrote a few books on the down low because I was still, working for the Milwaukee Police Department. And as you know, things have to get vetted. They have to get approved. Yeah. It's considered off-duty employment, and you have to write, a report, and it goes all the way up to the chief's office. And I'm like, this chief isn't going to understand anything that I'm doing. So I'm just going to do it with pen names, whatever. So I wrote a couple of books under pen names. And it's funny because before I was a cop, I did a bunch of stuff. I went to college and got my degree in sociology and criminal justice. And I almost wound up being a band director. I was a music major for a while. I love music. And I'm armed with a degree in sociology, which means I was qualified to be a 24-hour restaurant manager.
Yes, that's right. Or a bartender.
So that's what I did. I worked at IHOP. And
you did? Oh, wow.
Yeah, I did that for a year. And in 1 year, I got into more fights.
Late night, the drunks. My goodness. Yeah.
Than I ever did in 25 years of working in the inner city in Milwaukee. I mean, it was an all-out I had to hire bouncers at an IHOP. That's how bad it got.
And was this in Milwaukee, downtown, or?
No, actually it was Madison.
Oh, wow. Oh, Madison, Wisconsin. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
It's funny because remember back in the day, you're out late night drinking. Hey, let's go to IHOP, Oh, man. And then somebody looks at somebody the wrong way or something, and then that's it, right? Yeah.
Well, it was that, and, almost everybody was intoxicated, but I also had an outpatient mental health clinic a block away.
Yeah, that's a good mix.
And I had a bumper crop of homeless people that would come in and out. And, I was constantly kicking them out because A, they smelled really bad, and B, they didn't tip my waitresses and they didn't spend any money. They just wanted coffee. If they wanted to come in and get out of the cold for a while, I had no heartburn with that. But as long as they treated my staff right, and some of them didn't, so I'm booting them out the door as well. And it was just a lot of comedy.
So you entered the police field with a lot of people skills already that we have to learn usually on the job, but you already had these in communication with people that are intoxicated, mental illness. You already had, several years of this.
Oh, yeah, I did that. And then, I bartended and I sold cars for 4 years.
Oh, my God. I think, if you can just come, especially in the police, if you can come with a wealth of experience, that makes a better police officer. And in one respect, I think that worked back in our day. And now in current times, they really don't want that because then you're going to have a bad background. You know what I mean? So they want to get you young before you do any bad stuff,
Well, I guess I was considered kind of old. I was 30 years old. I was one of the oldest people in my academy class.
Yeah,
So,
I was 21 when I started in upstate New York, but I was 26
okay.
when I went to LA, and I didn't go to patrol
Mhm.
until I was 29, almost 30. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but I tell you what, dealing with drunks, trying to sell people cars, you learn how to talk to people. And it's funny
Absolutely. Yeah.
because, there's always new buzzwords when it comes to law enforcement. Like some of the newest ones are tactical communication,
Yeah.
de-escalation. And I'm like, I was doing that when I was dealing with drunks at 3 o'clock in the morning at IHOP. It's like,
Exactly.
it's
Oh
the
my.
same thing.
Yeah. Did you ever have that guy? I know our department paid the guy like $100,000. He was George Thompson. He wrote a book called Verbal Judo, and
Oh,
everybody,
yeah, yeah, yep, yep.
yeah, they paid him big bucks to come around and and they
Oh,
taught this whole week long thing, but it was, he always had this thing, pshaw, if somebody throws a curse word, you duck away
woosha. It
from it.
was
Yeah, whoosha.
woosha.
Yeah, you
Yeah, that's
remember. Yeah.
right.
This
Yep, it was
God,
woosha.
that was probably in the late 80s, I think, when that was going on. I don't know if he's still alive, but he was
I don't.
around recently.
He
But.
got he got throat cancer, and I
Oh,
don't think
that's
he's
right. He
alive
did. You're
anymore.
right. I
Yeah,
remember
because
that now. Yeah.
it affected his voice.
Yeah.
But I mean, the idea was solid. It's just he just presented it a different way and marketed it correctly.
No, it was
It
all
just
communication, how to better, and avoid,
correct.
if we can avoid a force incident. That was back when, that was the way to go. So you were a sergeant when you retired. How many years in Milwaukee PD?
25 years. I did. I
25.
did
You're
my
right.
25, and I popped smoke the day on my 25th anniversary. I'm like, I see you. I got to go.
That's it.
And
Yeah.
And the funny part was, I absolutely love the job. I've got no animosity towards it. Yeah, was I done wrong a bunch of times? Of course I was.
Yeah. Me too.
That's the
Yeah.
nature of the beast,
Yeah.
and one thing I really like about you, Cliff, is your attitude. I read your books.
Thank
I had
you.
you on
Thank
my
you.
podcast,
Yeah. I
and
loved it.
you got to make lemonade.
You gotta.
And I was placed into situations that I thought I was going to go to prison. I thought I was going
Yeah.
to get fired. I thought I was going to lose my pension for stuff that either I didn't do or what I did was the correct thing to do, but it looked terrible on TV.
Right.
When you're on
Yeah.
TV that night and you're sitting in your recliner and you're 6 months away from retiring, and the sheriff of the county that you're living in is calling you an urban terrorist.
Oh my
I tell you
goodness.
what,
Yeah.
man, it's a rotten feeling. You're just
I
like,
know. Yeah. I had me and another deputy, we were on federal court for civil rights violations, and so we're sitting there as the defendants, and I was like, what? My God, it was a terrible, terrible thing. But yeah, I
yep.
didn't like that. No, I was targeted too many times, but wow. Glad to get
But if
through it.
you're,
But like you, I look back with fondness of my career
oh,
serving. Yeah.
absolutely. That job gave me more than I could ever dream, financially, just life experience. It just, think about it, Cliff. We had a front row seat to the best show on earth.
Yeah.
It was awesome. I love the street. I worked the
Me
street for all
too.
25 years. I mean,
Yep.
that's where the fun was.
That was for the fun. I loved it. Yeah, I
Yep.
didn't want to do anything work patrol. I had to work custody a few years, and then. But that's what's great about your series. I usually don't like to read fiction about police work, but since this Bruce City Blues series, and your book number 4 just came out recently, and I've read the field training, which I loved. Michael Collins is the young officer, and then probation, which I just finished. So I'm on number 2, and then let's see, 3 is choir practice, I think, and the last
Yep,
one that just
choir
came out
practice.
is honor and valor, and it's just so.
Yes.
It brings back like, oh my God, was Patrick watching my career, or what? Were you with me? I mean, so accurate to what some of the things that I went through is like, wow. So I'm going to have all the links in the YouTube description and also on the podcast platform. Show notes. You got to get Patrick's books. I mean, you co-wrote this series with another gentleman, or?
Yeah, Michael Anderle is the
Yeah.
founder of 20 Books to 50K.
Oh, he is the founder. And I want to
Yeah.
go to that conference, and people should go to that
And
too, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Love to have you. And we do a law enforcement panel that I started doing probably about 3 years ago. I'd love to have you on that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, if Alva comes, bring her with. I
Oh,
mean,
definitely, yeah.
yeah. But what happened was, and I'm a big believer in, if you keep on doing good things and if you keep on doing or try to do the right thing, good things will happen to you.
Yes.
They just will.
Yeah.
And, I started the podcast more or less as a companion to the books that I wrote. and it just kind of took off. It's a slow burn, and then all of a sudden it's peaks and valleys, but now it's on a really good upward trajectory.
Yeah,
And
go ahead.
one of my guests was Michael Anderle, and we
Yeah.
talked. It was him and Craig Martell. Craig runs the Vegas
Wow. Yeah,
show.
Craig. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm friends with him. Great guy. He's a former Marine and just one of the nicest people I've ever met.
Yeah.
And all he wants to do is help authors. He just wants to help
awesome.
authors.
Oh, man.
It's just the whole service thing. You can't go wrong trying to serve people.
Yeah.
And we're done with the podcast. Craig had to go, and I was just talking to Michael because he's very introverted, and he never talked to me at the conferences because they started out small and now they're huge.
Yeah.
And we just started chatting, and he said, he started writing a book a month, and then his business model just exploded, and he's got his own publishing company, and he's like, how would you like to write some crime fiction with me? And I'm like, sure, why not? It's like, okay. So lo and behold, and almost 4 books later, we write together, and what he has the company, he has the editors, he's got the proofreaders, he's got the cover designers, and they're all super spot on. And, I can jump on a Zoom call and it's like, hey, this is where the book is going. Are you happy with it? Or hey, why don't you do this? And I'm like, sure. And writing, as you know, can be a very solitary thing. It's nice to have a partner where you could kind of bounce ideas off of, that kind of thing. But for the most part, I'm doing most of the writing itself.
Right.
So yeah, that's how it all came to be.
And I know a lot of it had to, it was kind of give a resource for people who who had questions about, would this be true to law enforcement if I write this in my book? But have you, how many actual cop writers are involved in the group? Is there quite a few?
Yeah, I'm surprised. There are quite a few that either have written books or there's a book in them.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
And they just kind of need a little bit of guidance as far as and maybe some realistic expectations to what that all entails.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, it's really hard work. And it's kind of like the lottery where, you don't know if it's really going to sell. You could do everything right and it still may not sell all that.
Correct. Yeah. Well, you have to, it's almost 3 full-time jobs, right? So you have your job as a writer, and then you got to be you got to not produce it, but you're the publisher. And then you got to market. You have to be a marketer. You have to have social media. You have to know keywords, and you're going to have to do ads. If you don't, you're not going to get organic traffic nowadays without a little bit of our advertising and this kind of thing. So you got it. And it's when you start parsing out that time wise, and it's a full-time job 3 times.
It is, and writing the book can be fun. It could be tedious. It could be a pain in the butt. It could be a lot of different things, but it is rewarding when you put the in and you
absolutely, yeah,
you punch it out into the wild. That's a great feeling. But you're making yourself very vulnerable, and a lot of people don't like that. You're setting yourself for the trolls who are like bad reviews, etc., that are either jealous or they're not happy unless somebody else isn't happy. Or they just enjoy being unhappy people. That's just the way they're hardwired. I don't get it, but hey, whatever. So
I've gotten
you
some
got to
good,
have a thick skin.
You have to. I've gotten some good feedback from reviews as far as, wow, I could have, that's a mistake. Those are errors. But then I stopped reading reviews, man, because the great ones are great, but man, some people get nasty and they have it all wrong. This guy was LAPD, I guess he's a crook, and oh my goodness, So, like you say, when you put yourself out there, it was funny.
Yep.
Like 6 months ago, I posted a picture of, and I guess they must have looked at my profile and saw that I had been a cop. I posted a picture on Twitter of my cat looking at the beach, right? And so somebody wrote on there, I bet you'd rather be out murdering people and shooting them in the back. And I go, what? I mean, come on, this is like ridiculous. Like, where did that come from, But, like you said, hey, I'm trying to expose myself to more and more people. That's how you grow. You have to try to enlarge your circle. Well, when you do that, there are some people, they say, if you're getting haters, you're doing the right thing, right? So I have to look at it as a positive.
Well, that's true. And also, bad reviews sometimes do have a place. You know, if
Right,
you're getting
yeah.
reviews, if you're getting bad reviews, and maybe bad isn't the right word, but if you're getting reviews where they're saying, you know what, on page 64, paragraph 2, he misspelled 5 words and he didn't use a comma, or, you know, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh, I can use that to better myself later. And it's like, you kind of flip it around and it's like, okay, you know what, you know, I should have proofread this a little better. I should have done this a little bit better. And it's like, okay, and then water off a duck's back, then just keep going forward.
Move forward, yeah. That's the, yeah. Man, you've had some great guests on the show. A couple I watched recently. That Lieutenant Tommy Brooks, man, that guy from Boston PD.
I love Tommy.
He got me fired up. I'm like, I want to work for this guy right now. I mean, I started talking faster, and I'm like, wow, I got this guy, because he's got training programs, right, for survival.
It's called Street Cop Training. He works for Dennis Benino, who is a retired copper that started this training program. He's got, I think, 20 either active or retired law enforcement officers doing different types of training all over the country. And he's one of them.
Yeah, he was talking about it, but man, he has some great stories, and you had him on, and then you had Wendy Whitman, who she had been in she was an assistant to George Carlin, Lily Tomlin, and then she went out and got her law degree, and she became like a Court TV consultant, or what she was with.
Yeah, she was a producer and director for Court TV.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, yeah, she was fascinating, man. You got some.
I love Wendy. She's awesome.
Yeah. So, man, you're really doing good with that show, and congratulations, 131 episodes last time I looked. So,
wow.
I don't think you've missed, right, every week?
I think I may have missed 1 week.
Maybe.
I've been doing it for almost 2 years. But here's a hint for all of you that are thinking about podcasting. It helps to batch your podcasts.
I do. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, there's nothing more stressful than sitting around on Friday wondering who you're going to have on Sunday.
Yeah, I do. You know? I do some solo podcasts, so I can get away without a guest. But like you say, so far I'm at 28 episodes. So I'm like, what am I, 5 or 6 months? I have never missed a week yet. So, but I like you. Sometimes I batch 2 to 3. Yeah. And so they're in the tunnel. Like you and I, this one will be, I think, July 28th or something. So
okay.
Yeah.
Great.
But that makes a lot of sense. But congratulations. 131 though is pretty awesome. Now you see a lot of people, man. They actually have great shows, but they peter out after they get, what do they call it? Podcast fatigue.
They call it pod fade.
Pod fade. That's exactly the word I was looking for.
Pod fade. What happens is, it sounds like a great idea. They have they get all the gear. They're all fired up, and they do it maybe 4 or 5 episodes in, and they're like, okay, this is a lot of work. This is drudgery. This is hours and hours of editing and doing whatever, and this just isn't fun anymore, so it's like, I think that I saw a stat, I think it was like 80 to 90% of all podcasts only make it like to about 5 or 6 episodes. So if you make it past that, you're doing good.
Well, this in the editing, like I do the video podcast plus the audio. I mean, the editing and cutting it up, and I just love doing all that stuff. So to me, it's just a labor of love. My wife goes, you spent 3 hours, editing that one video. I know, but I love doing it. I didn't even know 3 hours went by, right?
Right.
So, yeah. What writing software do you use for your books, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, no, I don't mind at all. I'll use Plotter.
Plotter. Okay. Oh, I've heard about
Plottr. And I had the 2 guys who started Plotter on my podcast. Their names are escaping me, but I had them on the podcast.
Yeah.
I also use just Microsoft Word.
Okay.
And I also I have a new series I'm going to start on my own. It's fiction. And it's kind of like I've never released this into the wild, but I will on your show. And it's kind of a cross between Dexter and what was the Vigilante one with Bruce Willis was on there not too long ago.
Oh yeah. I know what you're talking about. Death Wish. My wife and I, actually my wife originally, she watched Dexter like 3 times through the whole series.
Oh, I love Dexter. Yeah.
I forgot the name of the actor in there, but He was in a Broadway. He was actually in 2 Broadway shows. We saw
Oh, he
him.
was. Okay.
Yeah, he was in something in the Angry Inch, and then he was in. I forgot the other show he was in, but yeah, Oh man, he's awesome, man. He's a good actor. Yeah, he started in 6 Feet Under.
Yep.
Yeah. But Dexter, man, what a great series, man. Awesome.
But it's gonna be like a police vigilante that nobody would think is of it. He's righting all the wrongs, kind of like what Dexter tried doing.
Right. Yeah. He's he had a good intention in his murder. Yeah. Everybody had it coming.
Killer,
yeah.
But you kind of felt bad for him. He had a horrible childhood, and he was murdering people, but he was still a serial killer. But most of those people were really, really bad.
Yeah, and his position on the Miami PD kind of gave him an inroad to be behind the scenes, and
absolutely,
and it fed his obsession with being meticulous and OCD and all that stuff, and his fascination with blood. My wife has the same fascination. She loves blood, which I do not like.
Sleep with one eye open, Cliff.
She was my wife did 25 years on the LA Sheriff's Department. That's where we met. But she was at a suicide scene or something. But anyways, the coroner said, "Well, do you want to put the thermometer into the kidney or whatever?" And she goes, "Yeah." No, she was all into it. I go, "Oh my goodness, I would never want to do that." But so she was into it. But man, not me. I didn't even like watch blood being drawn with a drunk driving suspect.
Well, the creepiest thing I thought was when the medical examiner investigator would come out and they'd draw fluid out of the eyeball.
Oh, I've never even seen him do that.
Oh, yeah. I forget the name, but you get a lot of good stuff out of that fluid. They do a lot of toxicology off of that. And the first time I saw that, I jumped. I'm like, ew, what are you doing? And then she explained it to me, and I'm like, oh, okay, so this is normal. Man. I'm like, all right.
Now your books, the series is around Milwaukee PD. Is there any pushback from people in the department, or they like it, or?
Oh, so far everybody's like, "Hey, I remember when," or they're like, "I know who that person is that you're talking about."
Yeah. And it's probably nothing to do with them, right? It's just
some of it, some of it, no. I mean, obviously, I've changed some of the names, and then some of the names I kept the same for some good friends that are now deceased. And and of course, they're in the best light possible because they were such rock stars.
I have not written any fiction yet. I'm very afraid to do it yet. I haven't stepped into it. And I've read, and I've taken all these craft books, and I've taken these classes, and it's just a matter of pulling the trigger.
You could do it, Cliff. I know you could. It's in you. I mean, look at all the material you have. It's like what I did was I kept every memo book I had since I was a rookie. I've got a duffel bag full of these memo books. And if I'm stuck or thinking for a new idea, I just pull out that bag.
Yeah.
And I look, I'm like, oh, yeah, I remember that. Oh, yeah, that was crazy. It's like, all right. And it just gets the juices flowing. And all of a sudden, it's like, yeah.
Truth is stranger than fiction. Oh, on the software, writing software, I had for about 5 years, I used Scrivener.
Sure.
Which could do anything and everything. But it's just too, to learn, what do you call it? Intensive. It takes intensive learning to be able to work it. There's too many things that you could do with it.
There's a ton of stuff you could do with Scrivener, and I bought it when I first started writing. And at first, I was just in love with it. I was enamored with it.
Yeah.
And there's like, well, you could take these courses on how to use it, and I'm like, I always found myself going back to Microsoft Word. I'm like, okay. And there's another, I forgot, there's another piece of software called Atticus.
I just bought it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Yeah, Dave Chesson.
Dave Chesson, because I have Kindlepreneur, and I love the guy.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And he seems very responsive with it, because originally there's some tweaks people were complaining about, and he's like, hey, we're on it, just tell us what it is. We have a great, customer response. So
Dave's customer service, bar none, is the best I've ever seen.
Yeah.
He is emphatic about it. He is just obsessed with making people happy. And I've met him in person a few times at these conferences, and bend his ear. And he's such an interesting guy. And I've had him on the show a few times. I mean, he was a naval officer.
Maybe I can get him. Maybe I can get him on. That would be a big one, man.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Dave's a great guy. He was a naval officer for years.
Yeah, now I remember that.
Yep.
I haven't even used it yet, except for bouncing around with it. And I already love it. I already feel confident that I could start writing right now. It has some of the pros of Scrivener as far as things you can do with chapters and whatnot. But it seems to excel in the compiling to different platforms, making it
Yeah,
so much easier.
it will format your book, which is
Right.
huge. And you could see it in real time what it would look like in a Amazon Kindle
You can
or a
you can
paperback
check it
or
right
whatever.
now. This is what it will look
Yep,
like right now.
absolutely.
The problem that I recently ran into, now Amazon has a recent thing, right? I guess if people see errors in your book, so I have like 7 or 8 errors in my book that I want to correct, and because I went to a new computer and I went from Scrivener 2 to Scrivener 3, I don't have the original manuscript anymore, and when I
Yeah.
try to input it it won't, and when I try to compile it, it has all of these. It won't format properly, so I have to rewrite it. And
Oh
so
gosh.
I'm like, I don't want my book's pretty short. I could do it, and not it's only like 60,000 words. But so I'm gonna rewrite it in Atticus because I know it's gonna format properly. But
Yep, it
yeah,
will.
so I'm looking forward to using it, and then maybe I'll do the. Have you ever done any Alessandri Torri? Do you know her? She's got Inkers Con.
Inkers. Yeah, I do not. All I've heard is good things about that. She just had a conference not too long ago.
I always buy
And
the online version of it, and I think maybe next year I'm going to go to the in person. She used to have it in Texas, and then with COVID it was all online anyways. But there's
right.
always these guests on there. It's like she has guests for marketing, she has guests for social media, she has guests for having a workbooks or not a business plan. This should
Yeah.
be your author's business plan. So each, and you can just pick and choose. Kind of what you want to delve into.
Yeah, 20 books is like my conference. That's my go-to conference.
Yeah.
I was at the very first one. I absolutely love it. I love the energy. I've made lifelong friends there that, you see once a year at the conference. It's just so much fun.
Well, I'm
I
going to
just think
go.
it's just a
I'm going to go
blast.
because we love Las Vegas. Our first timeshare at Hilton was in Las Vegas. And
Okay,
so we still can stay at any of the Hilton properties there. And so we love it. We just went in April.
good.
And when I was in LA, I used to go to Vegas. Actually, I was going to write a book about this. And I thought, should I write it as a fiction or I'll just do it as a memoir? I was actually a pretty avid card counter for 1 year in Vegas. So,
Oh, okay.
and I was good enough that I could fly in the morning and fly back at night. And I was doing pretty well. But it became like a job. But
Yeah.
I had my own blackjack table at home. I would practice, counting
Oh,
the
wow.
cards and
Okay.
doing the basic strategy. So I have a lot of stories that go along with card counting. But I could also make it a fiction for sure.
Absolutely, you could.
Yeah. So all right. So I'm going to put in all your social. And I like that. What I like about you, Pat, is, and I always say this: nothing against my friends who they've retired and they want to stare at the water. I do that a little bit, but I'm like, I've just moved on to the next chapter. It's not like, okay,
Right.
I'm retired now, I'm not doing another thing, and so you still have that creative drive, which I have. And people, why are you doing that? You don't have to do it. No, because I love doing it. It's for the joy of it. And you, if you can talk to that, you have the same passion, which I love.
Well, I retired from law enforcement. I didn't retire.
You didn't
And
retire from life, right? This is what I'm saying. Yeah.
you're right. Yeah, you're the same way, Cliff. And being in law enforcement all that time, unfortunately, you have friends that retired, and we had the benefit of being able to retire at what some would consider an early age. I was 55 years old
Right.
when I
Yeah.
pulled the plug from police work, and a lot of people can't do that.
Right.
And
Yeah.
we're in a unique position where you could start a whole new career. And I knew that I didn't want to do anything dealing with being a cop again.
No, me
That's
neither.
a young
Yeah.
man's game. I was
Right.
55 years old. I I don't want to be rolling around at 2 o'clock in the morning
Yeah.
with some drunk.
Right.
No thanks. Those days are in the rearview mirror. But you have to have a mission. You have to have a purpose.
You have
And
to
if
have
you
a mission. That's right.
Yes. You got to have
Yeah.
that mission. And if your mission is, hey, you know what? I babysit my granddaughter 3 days out of the week. I
That's
help
right.
people work on
Yeah.
cars. I volunteer at the local boxing gym. Whatever. You got to have something. Sitting around and watching TV and drinking beer all night is not a mission.
No.
Not 24/7, and we've seen what that does to people.
Right. You're right. Exactly. That's awesome. Yeah. So I see that's why we connect in that way for sure. And yeah, God, I have all sorts of thoughts. I think it's just, and then like you were saying, I think we were talking about it off camera that just, I guess I just like serving, even though my podcast is motivation, inspiration. I like to, serving other people, and you don't realize when you finally realize, wow, you get tenfold back. It's almost selfish to be serving because
absolutely.
you get more serving. Yeah. I learned something from Tony Robbins that I have to employ all the time, right? Because he always, and I always remembered him, and I learned this like in the 90s, right? Don't rob somebody else of the gift of giving, right? Because you get in the habit of, no, somebody wants to buy you dinner or lunch. No, I'm not. I can't let you do that. Now I let people do it because I know it makes me feel good to do it. Why am I going to rob them of that feeling?
Sure.
So it's an important message, and and so what's next in the series? Are you going to continue with this Brew City Blues series? And I'm going to have that link in the. They can get on Amazon, or is it widely?
Yeah, we're Amazon exclusive right now. We're on Kindle
me too.
Unlimited.
Yeah.
So it's all Amazon for now. Future, who knows? But yeah, I have I think 2 more books I'm gonna write in that series, and it's loosely following what my career was. It's like you started out as a rookie, the worst district in the city, blah blah blah, and then I'm gonna promote him to sergeant and kind of give the readers a peek into what that world looks like, and then we'll just see what happens from there. And
it was
like I said earlier, I'm going to also start a new series with just me, and that's going to be like I said before, kind of like the police vigilante thing. And I'm real excited about that one.
That's going to be fun because people can't get away. Well, first of all, if even just the true crime podcasts are so popular, just people want to hear true crime constantly,
Yep.
So are they an audiobook too, or are you going to make them available in audiobook? Or
as far as the ones with Michael, I'm not sure what we're doing as far as that goes. You
Gotcha.
have to, I don't know what his business plan is for that. I love audiobooks. That's how I consume most of my books.
Yeah, my wife too.
But they're expensive.
Yeah. They are.
There's nothing cheap about it, and the person doing the narration, that's a performance. They're voice actors,
especially in a fiction thing like this. Yes. It has to be a performance that is true to the character. And if you have multiple characters,
right?
Mine was easy because mine was memoirs, so it was me, my voice. But if you have somebody playing, they have to be speaking from that character's point of view as a first person kind of thing. Yeah, something
Absolutely.
to consider when you're writing fiction and you're going to be making an audiobook, especially if you want to have a lot of characters. Keep that in mind because it is expensive to hire these actors to do that.
It is. And almost all of my own books are in audio as well.
Yeah.
Because that's what I like. So I just bit the bullet and just did it.
And so the Cops and Writers podcast, you can get that on I think I got it on Apple iTunes, and you can get that all over, right? And
I think it's on 20 or 30 different platforms.
Beautiful. All right, so I will have that available in all the show notes on the podcast. And if they listen and or watch on YouTube and see our handsome faces, it'll be in the description of the YouTube episode. Hey, I can't thank you enough for coming on and hang out for the debrief after we go. But man, thanks again for taking the time to spend with me. I really appreciate you.
No, I appreciate you, Cliff, and I'm a big fan of your show, and you just keep on trucking. You're doing great things.
Thank you, my brother. All right, we'll talk in the after show. Bye.